happen if the Demon King Muzan fought against all the Hashiras? Would he be able to fight them off? Well, I found two ways that things might play out, starting with the most gruesome scenario and then ending it with the most shocking one. Starting off with full power Muzan versus Hashiras without their Demon Slayer marks. In this scenario, Muzan wouldn't have been tricked by Yubashiki and poisoned by Tamayo. This means that Muzan would have almost unstoppable regeneration, wouldn't slow down in terms of attack speed, and wouldn't have been annoyed by Tamayo's flesh seeds. Now, will this be an easy win for Muzan? Well, both yes and no. Why yes and no? Here's why. So hypothetically, let's say Muzan wasn't blown to bits by Yubashiki's explosion, and because of that, Muzan managed to spot Tamayo and kill her before she could implant the poison into him. But before Yubashiki got demolished, he managed to send out a signal to all of the Hashiras near his location. So what does this exactly mean for the Hashiras? Well, first things first, they're in a lot of trouble, and I mean a lot. Without Yubashiki's sacrifice and Tamayo's help, Muzan is in the best condition he can be, and he's more motivated than ever to eradicate the Demon Slayer Corps once and for all. The Hashiras would probably be the first ones to arrive for the sake of the story. Let's say that they're the only ones to fight Muzan. 𝗪𝗰, just like in the original series, would throw his flail at Muzan, trying to decapitate him, but things don't go as planned, as he can easily dodge this and counterattack. So would 𝗪𝗰 kick the bucket this early in the battle? Well, luckily for him, the other Hashiras would arrive in time and attack Muzan simultaneously. This will ultimately save 𝗪𝗰's life, but that doesn't mean they will stop him. Remember, Muzan is at full power, so he can easily dodge these attacks and might throw some using his blood demon art, biokinesis. That gives him the ability to manipulate his body at will and shapeshift instantly. He might be able to wound the other Hashira, but to the point that he'll kill one. So now, since it's a standoff, what will be Muzan's next move? Well, remember what happened in the original manga? Giant doors will suddenly appear and force all of them inside the Infinity Castle, Muzan's home court. Now, this is a part where things get interesting. Why, you ask? Well, you have to note that Demon Slayer mark can only be activated if they are in an extremely life-threatening condition, have a heart rate of over 200 beats per minute, and a body temperature of over 39 degrees Celsius. But the most important condition is for them to be in contact with someone who has the mark or has been marked before. However, for the sake of the story, it's just Muzan versus the Hashira, and that's why there are no Demon Slayer marks and even access to the transparent world. With marks out of the way and his pride at an all-time high, Muzan will probably go straight onto the fight. So now that we're at the final stage of the battle, will the Hashiras win, or will Muzan finally bring a golden age for demons? Well, to put it simply, this won't be an easy fight for both the demons and Hashiras. When the Demon Slayers don't have access to the marks, they will ultimately fail to figure out a way to turn their Nichiren blades bright red, which should have significantly dealt some serious damage to Muzan. However, since we're presuming that all of them are alive, including Rengoku, the Hashiras are bringing in some serious firepower. But would that be enough? Well, you have to take note that a single unmarked Hashira would easily be defeated by any upper moon. And well, Muzan is the upper moon's big boss, so I think you know where this is going. But the Hashiras will put up quite a fight. Even unmarked Hashiras are strong, and considering that there are 9 of them with their own respective breathing styles, it's gonna be annoying to deal with them. There might also be 2 Hashiras that'll shine in this battle. Do you know who they are? Well, the first one is Shinobu. Even though she died in the original series, she did come up with the poison that damaged the upper moon too so much that he was able to be defeated by Kano and Inosuke. This poison of hers would most likely affect Muzan as well, but it will not be as effective as Tamayo's, even though Shinobu helped in making that one. Still, they need all the help they can get. With her speed and the help of her fellow Hashiras, she might be able to sting him with it and act as continuous support. However, one fatal move would likely cause her to get killed. And who will be the other Hashira? Well, that would be Obanai. Obanai was a Hashira that Muzan had the most trouble fighting against in the original series because of his unorthodox breathing style. Remember that in the original series he could keep up with the poison Muzan while completely blind and even managing to drive him into a corner. His swordsmanship may become a huge nuisance for Muzan and might help the other Hashira find an opening for their own attacks. But will this drive Muzan into a corner? Well, it's safe to say that it might defeat Muzan if he was poisoned, but a well-conditioned and full-power Muzan would most likely demolish the Hashiras because the Demon King can go all out. Shinobu's mixture would most likely get cured within the first few minutes of the fight. It would be a battle to remember, but at the end, Muzan and the demons will take the win. Moving on, we'll dive into a more surprising scenario. Do you have an idea? Well, it's Poison Muzan versus all the Hashiras with their Demon Slayer marks. This is the complete opposite of what we just discussed, and I'm sure you think the Hashiras would just demolish Muzan, but think again. Why? Well, it's because of one thing that we'll reveal in a while, so stay tuned. Let's set up what would happen in this scenario. First things first, unlike the first discussion, Yubashiki and Tamayo would succeed in trapping and weakening Muzan. The Hashiras would arrive just in time as well and manage to damage Muzan before he retreated into the Infinity Castle. But since this scenario is slowly following the events in the main timeline, what would actually be the game changer here? Well, we need all of the Hashiras to be alive, and that includes Rengoku, Shinobu, and the others that died or were severely wounded. And for the sake of the story, we'll go ahead and do that. But what about the upper moons? Well, again, they're just not here, and it's Muzan versus the Hashira. With all the plot holes taken care of, it's time for the final fight to begin. Muzan versus the Hashira, part 2. And this time, the Hashiras have the upper hand. All the upper moons are gone, and Muzan is cornered and weakened by Tamayo's poison. However, will this go smoothly for the Demon Slayers? Well, we have to take note that Muzan is already in his combat form and has significantly healed before he and the Hashira have met. He'll eventually be encircled by the Hashiras, where the final showdown will start. For the sake of the story, let's say all the Hashiras currently have their Demon Slayer marks awakened and have access to the transparent world. The Demon Slayer marks increase the Hashira's overall strength by a lot, where they can fight one-on-one with the upper moons. Even the Hashira's arm strength is increased 100 times, and they even get access to the bright red 𝗪𝗰𝗵 swords that almost stop the demon's regeneration, even Muzan's. But will this be enough? Well, they also have the transparent world, which allows them to see the world in slow motion and easily predict their opponent's movements. So how will this fight play out? Well, first things first, the Hashiras will most likely launch a simultaneous attack on Muzan, where they would be able to decapitate him, especially since their abilities have increased and now they have a way to anticipate Muzan's next moves. This will do a lot of damage to the Demon King, but remember, he can't die even if he's decapitated. The only thing that'll kill him is the sun. Just like in the main series, it's a battle of attrition where the Demon Slayers would throw everything they have against Muzan just to stop him from escaping before the sun rises. With that in mind, would any of the Hashiras lose their life? Well, sadly, there will be Hashiras that sacrifice themselves for the greater good, but stick around to find out who it'll be. Again, the two Hashiras that would prove the most useful would be Shinobu and Obanai for the exact same reasons. But 𝗪𝗯𝗵 would give Muzan some serious trouble. 𝗪𝗯𝗵 with his overwhelming strength will most likely help in driving Muzan into a corner, but Muzan will definitely launch a counterattack. And how will this affect the battle? Well, 𝗪𝗰𝗵 might eventually sacrifice his life, just like how he did with Kokushibo in order to slow Muzan down even more. And Shinobu might also be involved in a do-or-die situation while she'll be killed since she has the lowest attack power out of all of them. However, we can't forget about Rengoku, who has all three of the buffs and has the most potential out of all the Hashiras. Rengoku would decimate Muzan, seeing as how even without a mark, he was able to send Akaza flying into the force with a single sword swing. Now imagine him having access to everything Tanjiro had. Rengoku with his flame breathing would provide the most firepower, especially with his 9th form, Rengoku. And what would be the result of this battle? Well, the Hashiras would survive until sunrise and Muzan would be disintegrated. I think the Hashiras that will go down are 𝗪𝗰𝗵, Shinobu, 𝗪𝗯𝗵, Obanai, and Mitsuri, since these 5 are most likely the main players in this battle, and Muzan just won't go down without a fight. The Hashiras will ultimately win, fulfilling their roles as protectors of humanity, but not without sacrifice. The final showdown was definitely made easier by the presence of all the 9 Hashiras and how the upper moons were all defeated, but have you ever thought about what would happen if the other upper moons were sent to the Mugen train? Click this next video to find out.